I never thought my first love would become my greatest humiliation. His name was Ethan Blackwood, captain of the basketball team, tall, broad-shouldered, with that crooked smile that made every girl in school melt. He wasn't just popular, he was untouchable. The kind of guy teachers gave second chances to, the kind who could charm his way out of trouble. And somehow he chose me. I wasn't one of the it girls. I wasn't cheerleader material or homecoming queen hopeful. I was just Clara Hayes, quiet, studious, the kind of girl who sat at the back of the class and read novels while everyone else gossiped about who was dating who. But when Ethan smiled at me in the hallway when he asked if I wanted to hang out after practice, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I mattered. The night it happened, I was nervous. My hands shook when he kissed me, when his fingers tangled in my hair, when he whispered that I was beautiful. He told me I was special, that I was his. It felt real. It felt magical. And when I gave him something I had been holding on to, my virginity, I thought it meant the start of something deeper, something that would last. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 days later, I walked into school and felt the stares. Snickers followed me down the hall. I didn't understand until I heard it. She actually thought he liked her. She must have begged him for it. Ethan said she cried after. How pathetic. My blood froze. My stomach twisted. And then I saw it, him, Ethan, leaning against his locker, smirking as his friends high-fived him. When our eyes met, I expected him to defend me, to at least acknowledge me. But instead, he chuckled and said, loud enough for the whole hallway to hear, relax, guys. She was just practice. The laughter that followed burned into my soul. That day, something inside me broke. The girl who used to dream of fairy tale love died in that hallway. And in her place, something else was born. Something darker. I went home that night, stared at myself in the mirror, and whispered the words that would define the rest of my life. If Ethan Blackwood wants to play games, then I'll show him just how dangerous I can be. And that was the beginning of my plan. Not just to humiliate him. Not just to ruin him. No. I was going to frame him for murder. The next morning at school was hell. I walked through the hallways with my head bowed, clutching my books like a shield against the whispers and muffled laughter. My skin felt like it was burning under the weight of everyone's eyes. Everywhere I turned, I could hear snickers, mocking gasps, and worst of all, his name, Ethan, falling from everyone's lips. Did you hear what he said? Apparently, she begged him to take her virginity. God, she's so desperate. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood, but I refused to cry. Not in front of him. Ethan strutted through the halls like he owned the place, his grin wide, shoulders relaxed, and the boys around him laughed like hyenas. Every few seconds he'd glance over at me, eyes glinting with cruel satisfaction. He wanted me broken, and he was enjoying every second of it. By lunch, I couldn't take it anymore. I locked myself in a bathroom stall, my knees pulled up to my chest. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from classmates, screenshots of Ethan's cruel texts spreading around, even photoshopped memes of me circulating in group chats. I thought I had reached my breaking point, but then came the final straw. Someone slipped a folded piece of paper under the stall door. My hands shook as I opened it. Slut. Just one word. That's all it said. I sat there, trembling, staring at the word until the ink blurred from my tears. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The hurt began to harden into something else. Something darker. When I finally got home, my mom asked why I was so quiet. I just mumbled something about being tired and locked myself in my room. The humiliation replayed in my mind over and over again, like a cruel movie on repeat. But instead of crying this time, I pulled out a notebook. I wrote Ethan's name in bold letters across the page. Then I started listing everything he had done to me, the lies, the manipulation, the public shaming. Page after page, until my hand cramped and the ink smudged against my skin. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one final sentence. He will pay. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was a vow. The next few weeks only made my resolve stronger. The bullying didn't stop. It got worse. Someone spray-painted slut on my locker. My books were knocked out of my hands. Even teachers gave me pitying looks, like I was the pathetic girl who had made a fool of herself.
Ethan?
He thrived. His popularity skyrocketed. He was the school's golden boy, untouchable, and I was the cautionary tale. But they didn't know me. They didn't know the storm brewing beneath my silence. I started watching him more closely, his routines, his hangout spots, who he trusted, what he feared. I kept my head down, let them all think I was broken. But inside I was planning. And the more I planned, the more intoxicating the thought became. Not just ruining his reputation, not just hurting him the way he hurt me, but destroying him completely. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. By the time I was done, Ethan wouldn't just regret what he did to me, he would wish he had never been born. The first step to destroying someone is patience. I realized that quickly. If I rushed, if I lashed out at Ethan too soon, everyone would see me for what they already thought I was: pathetic, desperate, obsessed. No, I couldn't let them see my hand. I had to wait, to observe, to find the cracks in his perfect golden boy mask. So that's what I did. I became invisible. I walked through the halls with my hood up, earbuds in, even when I wasn't listening to music, head down. To them, it looked like I'd given up, that I'd finally broken under the pressure. Ethan must have thought he'd won. That was my advantage. Because while they forgot about me, I never stopped watching him. Every day, I took notes. Ethan always stayed late after practice, but not for extra drills. He was usually in the parking lot, leaning against his car, smoking when he thought no one was looking. He copied homework from his so-called friends. He wasn't as smart as people thought. He cheated on his girlfriend. Yes, the same girl who used to laugh the loudest at me in the cafeteria. I saw him slip behind the bleachers with some sophomore and come out wiping his mouth like he hadn't just betrayed her. Piece by piece, I collected his secrets like sharp little knives I could use when the time came. But knowing things about him wasn't enough. I needed something bigger. Something that would crush him completely. And then one night, lying awake in bed with my notebook open beside me, it hit me like lightning. What ruins a reputation?
Gossip.
What ruins a life? A crime. Not just any crime, murder. At first, the thought scared me. It was insane, wasn't it? But the more I sat with it, the more it made sense. People saw Ethan as a star, untouchable. If he was accused of something so vile, so unthinkable, his kingdom would crumble overnight. And who better to orchestrate it than the girl everyone already thought was weak? The next few days, I started laying the groundwork. Nothing too bold yet, just
experimenting.
Seeing how easy it was to bend the truth. Like when I accidentally mentioned to a teacher that Ethan looked tired in class because he'd been out late the night before. Suddenly, rumors spread that he was partying harder than usual. Or when I left a fake lipstick stain on the back seat of his car during a basketball game. By Monday, half the school believed he was cheating. Small moves, little ripples. And it worked. People started to whisper, not about me anymore, but about him. And that's when I knew I was ready for the bigger picture. The problem was a murder needs a victim. And I wasn't about to kill anyone. That wasn't the plan. I didn't need a real body, just a believable story. Someone had to disappear. And as luck, or maybe fate, would have it, an opportunity walked right into my life. Her name was Rachel Green. She was new, shy, the kind of girl who slipped through the cracks of high school life unnoticed. No close friends. No reputation yet. She'd be perfect. If Rachel went missing, and I made it look like Ethan was the last person to see her alive, everything would fall into place. The seed of the plan was planted. All I had to do now was nurture it until it bloomed into Ethan's complete downfall. And God, for the first time since that awful night, I felt alive again. The morning after the police picked Dylan up, the entire school was buzzing. I walked through the hallway, pretending to be nervous, but inside, my chest thrummed with satisfaction. Whispers trailed behind me like perfume. Did you hear? Dylan's been arrested. They found blood in his car. My God, do you think he actually did it? The rumor mill was running at full speed, and I didn't even have to nudge it. Still, I made sure to play my part. Wide eyes, shaky hands, and quiet gasps whenever someone mentioned his name. I wanted them to see me as the poor girl traumatized by what Dylan had done, not just to me, but supposedly to Emily. By lunch, everyone's eyes were on me. Girls who never spoke to me suddenly sat beside me, asking if I was okay. Teachers offered me passes to the nurse's office if I needed time to process. Even the principal stopped me in the hallway, his eyes full of sympathy. I was finally being seen. But with attention came suspicion. Later that day, Detective Harper showed up at school again. She pulled me into an empty classroom, her notebook ready. "Emily's still missing," she said. "We found traces of her hair in Dylan's car. We're building a strong case against him," but she paused, eyes narrowing. "I need to ask you again. Are you sure you didn't see or hear anything unusual the night Emily disappeared?" I swallowed hard, forcing my lips to tremble.
No, Detective.
He was cruel to me.
He humiliated me.
But I didn't think he'd. My voice broke, and tears slid down my cheeks. Her eyes softened, but she didn't stop writing. "You're very brave, you know, speaking up about Dylan's behavior." I nodded, pretending to crumble under the weight of it all. When she left, I thought I was safe. But later that evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Unknown. "You think you're clever, don't you?" Unknown. "I know what you did." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, heart pounding.
Who could it be?
Someone at school? Emily herself? Or worse, did Dylan somehow find a way to reach me from custody? The walls of my plan, once solid and untouchable, suddenly felt paper-thin. And the fear that someone might expose me was almost unbearable. Still, I couldn't stop now. Dylan had to go down, no matter the cost. But as I typed back, my hands shaking, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just started a war I might not win. I never imagined how fast rumors could mutate when whispered through the halls of a high school. By the Monday after Jason's arrest, the story had grown tentacles, long, grotesque ones. Some said he'd been caught with blood on his hands. Others swore they saw the police drag him out of his house in handcuffs at 3 a.m. A few whispered that they'd found a body buried under the football field. None of it was true, of course. But none of it needed to be. In a theater of teenage cruelty, perception mattered more than fact. Jason wasn't just a boy anymore. He was a monster, a headline, a cautionary tale. And I was safe in the shadows, the puppeteer pulling invisible strings. But something started gnawing at me. Every time someone laughed about Jason's downfall, I felt a twisted mixture of satisfaction and nausea. I'd gotten what I wanted, he was destroyed. But why didn't I feel free? Why didn't the knot in my chest loosen? It only got worse when Jason's mother showed up at school. She stormed into the office, red-eyed and trembling, and then into the cafeteria where I sat. Her voice cracked as she shouted, "My son would never kill anyone. He's not a monster. He's just a boy." For the first time, guilt scraped its claws against my mind. I saw the desperation in her eyes, the raw grief of a mother watching the world eat her child alive. And I realized that my revenge hadn't just swallowed Jason, it had swallowed his family too. That night, I had trouble sleeping. My mind replayed the moments. Jason laughing with his friends, Jason standing tall on the football field, Jason sneering at me in front of a school. But alongside those memories was another one, Jason as a little boy, a smiling face in some family photo, a mother holding his hand. I told myself he deserved it, that this was justice for what he did to me. But the whisper in the back of my mind grew louder. Or maybe you've just become worse than him. The next day, things escalated. Someone spray-painted killer on Jason's locker in dripping red paint. Teachers tried to scrub it off, but the stain clung stubbornly, like blood that wouldn't wash away. And then I saw him. Jason. He'd been released on bail. He looked nothing like the cocky boy who once owned these halls. His eyes were hollow, his face pale. The swagger was gone. He walked hunched, shoulders caved in, like the weight of the world had finally broken him. When our eyes met, a shiver ran down my spine. There was no anger in his gaze.
No, Hatrid.
just emptiness. And that terrified me more than anything. Because I realized something in that moment. Destroying someone doesn't erase your pain. It just creates a new kind of monster. And maybe, just maybe, that monster was me.